you so much for joining us here today. We are talking about the OER Campus Kickstart Award for Growing Illinois OER Programs. As you probably know, this award is for faculty and librarian collaborations in order to implement OER use in the classroom. And I'm Sarah McCone-Chase. I am the immediate past president of IACRL. I'm going to serve as your MC today. First up, we have Michelle O. and Adrian Smith of Oakton College. Take it away.
All right, thanks. I'm going to share some slides. That'll just take me a moment and let me know if you can't hear us or anything else. And I won't be able to see anyone's face, so you might actually have to be like, stop. All right. So thank you so much. My name is Michelle O. I'm the librarian for Open Access and Equity, and we're going to spend about hopefully 15 minutes and not eat into anybody else's time about kickstarting Oakton's OER program. To give you a little background on myself, I am currently, and since the fall of 2022, I'm the person who coordinates initiatives related to OER on our campus. I have a certificate in OER librarianship, and I've actually been working in this kind of OER sphere since 2018. And I previously coordinated part of the OER program at Northeastern Illinois University. I'm also, I was previously, until this fall, on the ILA executive board as a director at large. So I love me some ILA. And I also love me some Adrian Smith, who will introduce herself right now.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Adrian Smith. I am currently the manager of the Career Transfer Center. I am also an adjunct professor in the Business and Professional Services Department, which we are also known as BAPS. And I teach a variety of courses in that department. And I'm happy to be here and was very happy when Michelle approached me with this opportunity. I was very excited to be a participant of it.
Thank you. So to give you an idea of open educational resources prior to my arrival at Oakton College, and also prior to the receipt of the IACRL Kickstart Award, Oakton's OER program existed, but there wasn't like a formal program. So there wasn't structures like grant funding, a formal committee, or established and consistent professional development opportunities around open educational resources. But what was there was a really strong commitment to social justice, equity, and many folks were already adopting OER or other kinds of materials that would defray the cost of textbooks and other readings to students. And it really was based on the needs of students, which is really apparent to all of us. For 3 semesters, we actually were able to get an instructional materials task force going. And they had one meeting before I arrived. And then after I got here, there were 2 meetings. And the hope was that we would come up with more formal infrastructure to be able to talk about OER and also move the initiative forward. However, an administrator left, the one who managed the task force, and so that kind of fizzled out, and we're trying to revive those efforts. But that said, there are many advocates, in particular the department's BAPS, from which Dr. Smith teaches, and also our early childhood education programs. Both of those departments are actively trying to create full certificate or full programs wherein all of the courses would use OER or have no cost to students. And I know that we are maybe a little bit unique in that we're a community college. I know there's another community college here as well, but our tuition is pretty affordable compared to like a 4-year university. So sometimes the cost of our textbooks would be higher than the cost of the course itself. Additionally, OER was acknowledged on the campus in other ways for faculty. So we have something called high impact practices. So those are things that we can do to have the highest impact on students. It sounds pretty obvious. And examples of that are like active learning, collaborative learning, problem-based learning, service learning, internships, universal design for learning. But what really this means is that there are some minor ways to get acknowledged or even compensated for doing a high impact practice. So we also have high impact practice awards for these types of innovations to the classroom. And OER and adopting OER is one of those things. But what we lacked in general, I mentioned before, is like a formal structure for a program. And we also lacked kind of a full understanding of which students are impacted by these costs. And one of the bits of structure we lack too is just bookstore data that's clear for students at the time of registration. So it's hard for students at Oakton to know how much a book is going to cost before when they're at the point of registration. But we're really fortunate and glad that we participated in something called the Illinois Course Materials Survey, which was conducted in the spring of 2023 through fall of 2023. And this data really confirmed to us in quantitative terms that those who are experiencing financial hardships for paying their books and also experiencing negative outcomes from it were more likely to be our students of color and our underrepresented students. So here is a slide, a really gigantic image of our newsletter, the Oakton Weekly. And one of our big goals as part of the Kickstart Award was to generate campus attention on OER. People already care about our students. That is not a problem at Oakton. And we all know that there are many students who struggle financially. So we already even had some data, for example, from a survey in 2018 that was conducted that let us know that 31% of the student respondents reported low or very low food security. At that time, we didn't have the Illinois Course Materials Survey to give us more data, but that is sort of the environment under which we're trying to develop this program. So why I reached out to Adrienne about the Kickstart Award was that she had actually booked an appointment with me about OER for her courses around the time that this was publicized. And she was also taking some graduate courses to improve online teaching practice, which was part of how she discovered this OER realm and how to integrate it into the classroom. So here was our blurb about us getting the award. And I do think we met the goal of gaining attention on campus. I don't, Adrienne, did this happen to you? Like after this went out, like people stopped me in the hallway and they were like, I saw you in Oakton Weekly. Oakton Weekly is kind of a big deal.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I got acknowledged in our staff meeting
Oh, nice.
about it. Because I knew I had sent this information to you, but I didn't know when it had hit Oakton Weekly. And so my chair had found it. And so at our larger meeting, they had pulled this up and showed me. So I was all surprised and excited when I saw it. So yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I think even like a year later, people would say like, oh, I saw something and aren't you the one working on textbooks? And I know that it's kind of hard to talk about open educational resources because we have a lot of jargon around what is happening. But I over time, I've realized that my brand is kind of like the textbook lady on campus. So even the athletics director will send students to me if they cannot pay for their books to find alternatives. So our other goal, which was also unfortunately stated in writing in the Oakton Weekly, was to assess student outcomes when financial barriers were lowered. And we did not achieve this goal. It has nothing to do with Dr. Smith or her courses, but the enrollments were too low for us to gather anything meaningful. And we couldn't really share any of the data because of the small sample size, but it really wouldn't be generalizable. We had hoped to track multiple courses, but we were only able to track one. And the other one was a course that was slated to go was canceled, and we call it shambled on our campus.
Yep.
But Adrian did for a course have students fill out a Google form that we made together to ask students about their experience with the book and the course. And it really, I mean, there was very few responses, but it had the same sentiment that probably everyone in the room has experienced, which are textbooks are very expensive and often are not used. So with that, after having been through this year and this cycle of seeing how to maybe use one course as a pilot to look at OER progress and initiatives, I think it kind of gave me some insight into what we want to do in the future, which is maybe finding a mechanism for students to see the cost of course materials, which that practice is called course marking. And then continue emphasis on professional development and tallying student cost data. And I'm going to turn over the next couple slides to Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Michelle. So for the class, my organizational behavior class is Management 205. We had the OpenStack book. And so the course basically, you know, it teaches them about how to understand organizations, how people, you know, respond in organizations, different strategies. In effective leadership, we also use the book. Where I first got excited about it, and then I used it in my organizational behavior class. So my experience with this open textbook was, it was great. What I enjoyed about it is that it made the things affordable for the students. It made it, it made it more user-friendly. Like I remember when students would send me an email asking me, you know, would they have to purchase a textbook? And when I told them that no, they didn't have to, many of them were very excited about not having to incur a cost for that it was going to be already supplied. You want to go to the next slide? So how much time did it take to rework the readings for this course? It wasn't hard at first, because one thing that I had took a look at the book first to do a comparative analysis to see was the information in the McGraw book different from this. And so it wasn't a lot of difference. What I had told Michelle, the only thing that was kind of different was that the McGraw gave an audio book so they could listen to the book. But the open education book did not have that. So to me, that was the only thing that was different. But other than in terms of the content and the structure of the book, it wasn't that much different. In fact, it was, to me, easier to correlate the information in that book to the scenarios, because I use problem-based learning andragogy in my class. And so I give them scenarios to create more real life experience. And so I was able to go specifically to chapters, because I don't assign chapters in order. I assign chapters in order what my scenarios are. So those scenarios that I created, it was a very easy, user-friendly chapter that really worked with the scenario. So I had to do some pre-work to be able to navigate that, but the students, they really appreciated having that opportunity. They appreciate having not have to purchase a book. So to me, it was a great use of my classroom time. It was a great opportunity for students to not have to spend money, and just overarching, it was just, I was happy to learn about it in my online graduate courses, but that was a thing that I can even offer to the students. So being a student that paid a lot of money for books, I was very excited to offer them something that was not, that they had to pay for.
All right, and with that, Tam, I'm not sure if you want to save, or Sarah, I don't know if you want us to save all the questions for the end, but we're happy to take questions or.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, why don't you get those into the chat, and then at the end we'll take care of all the questions at once, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. That was very interesting. Next up, we have Carrie Didion and Ali Sipra of Governor State University, and I know Carrie's not with us today, so
yeah,
hi,
you're
Ali.
stuck with just me. Hi, I did not prepare slides. I think Carrie might have been working on that, but she's not able to join us. So I'm just going to talk to you. I'm just going to explain everything we did. Feel like a little bit of an underachiever after that presentation, though. That was fabulous. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about the two of us. So Carrie Didion is one of our university librarians at Governor State University, and she's just fabulous. She's she's amazing. I know she's been at Gov State for quite a while. This is my 10th year at Gov State, but she has been involved in one of the courses that we introduced, which is the one that we ended up doing the OER textbook for, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. So she's always been very involved with kind of the more traditional faculty roles, and at Gov State librarians have faculty rank. So she does a lot of workshops and writing workshops, research workshops, database user workshops, which I'm sure most of the librarians do as part of their jobs. I am a professor in the Department of Psychology. I'm the department coordinator, and I'm also an assistant dean. And one of the reasons that Carrie and I started working together is because I'm in charge of our course called Mastering College, which is essentially our transition to college class for all of our students. If you're not familiar with Gov State, we are a minority serving institution, and we have a very high student population of first generation students. So this particular population tends to be less prepared for college and the expectations of college. And being first gen myself, I could really kind of harken back to that. When I went to college, I didn't really know what office hours were. I didn't know that you could go talk to your professors. All of these things that my peers just seemed to know that I didn't know, and I didn't know how you ever learned these things. And so that's the basis of the course that we have called Mastering College. And when I first came to Gov State, it was taught on Fridays, and we were a commuter campus. So you can imagine the trouble we had with attendance. You know, you can have the best course in the world, but if no one shows up to take it, it's not going to work. Right. So over the next few years, I was able to work with, at that time, the Dean of Students and I were kind of working on it together. And then it actually got moved over into faculty's realm. So we made it a Gen Ed type course. So it's not ILA. It's not one of those types of Gen Eds, but it's, I don't want to say controlled, but it's monitored by the Gen Ed Council because we have made it a graduation requirement. All students who come to Gov State with fewer than 26 credit hours must take and pass with a C or better this Mastering College course. And it's been helpful so far. We also moved the classes off of Fridays since we do have dorms on campus, but most of our student body is still a commuter student body. So we have it as a more traditional class. It's a 1 credit class. They do get a grade, and they just learn all of the skills that are meant to help them be successful in their other academic courses. One of the things that we really focused on in this class in the early days was having a common read. That didn't really work out well for our students. Most of them didn't read the book, and then they came to class and they said, well, if this is supposed to help me prepare me for class, why am I talking about readings? So we really revamped the class to focus solely on the skill set needed to be successful in college. So we're talking about time management, learning where the resources are on the campus. You know, who do you talk to if you have a question about this? Advising schedules. We do SMART goals, career and major exploration, because at Gov State, you're not allowed to declare a major until your sophomore year. So we do some exploration type things. So a lot of it is really those base skills that many of our students who, as I mentioned, are first gen. We also have a high proportion of veteran students. We are a minority serving institution, and I'm not quite sure if we've hit the mark for Hispanic serving, but we were 1% off the last time I checked. So, but the majority of our students come from Chicago Public Schools. So there's kind of a vast range of their preparedness for college, because as you all know, being from around the state, any large metropolitan area, you've got great schools, you have underperforming schools, and we kind of have that melting pot at Gov State. So we worked really hard on trying to create a course that would prepare the students to help them, because we also had a very low retention rate from freshman to sophomore year. So we've been using this course as a way to help the students succeed, a way to help them realize that they do belong here. But in doing that, we have never had a textbook for the class. So although I created a master shell and we have all these resources, we didn't have a physical or even online book for the students to look at to figure out what is happening next. And so Carrie came to me and said, this is a great opportunity. I think we should do this for our Mastering College class. And I initially told her, it's a fabulous idea, but I do not have time to write another textbook. I just finished writing one. I don't think I can take that on, which I'm sure many of you might have had that type of initial reaction, right? And Carrie just said, you know what? There are already textbooks out there. We don't have to write the whole thing from scratch. We can read all these books. We can pull a chapter from this one, pull a chapter from this one, and make it our own. So that's essentially what we did. I feel like I need to backtrack a tiny bit. The previous presenters had mentioned the kind of atmosphere and experience with OER prior to this. Prior to this grant, the only initiative we had came from one dean in one of our 5 colleges. And she said, hey, if you guys want to use OER textbooks in your classes, I will, and it's successful. It brings down the cost for our students, all the reasons that we all love OER. But if you can do this, then you can apply for this little internal grant and you can have funds and it can be used for these certain things. And I did that for 3 of my classes. And I had a few other colleagues who did it for a few classes. But that was it. It was 1 year, one initiative. And then those of us who transitioned, we kind of stayed with it, but nobody else really knew about it. And it certainly wasn't a campus-wide initiative. So when this came about, we were really trying to kind of light the fire for OER. We're doing it in Mastering College, which is taught by faculty from all across the university. It's taught by staff members and civil service members. So we have the assistant director of financial aid teaches one of these classes, right? We have someone from the academic resource center teaching one of these classes. So they get exposure to lots of different personnel across the university. And we were also hoping that having this new textbook would bring exposure to the idea of adopting OERs throughout different departments and divisions. That is yet to be seen, but I think it's happening. We're very slow moving in that direction. So what we ended up doing, Carrie and I went through a few different options. We read through maybe 5 or 6 different current textbooks that are about navigating college, right? And a few that were really specific on the transition from high school to college, others that were more like, this is what college is and this is what you have to do. And I really loved, I don't want to say the wrong name here. There was one textbook that we ended up using so many chapters from, or portions of chapters from, because it's just really, really well done. And that is not popping up right here. it's a concise guide to college. There's a full one, and then there's the concise guide. And I really, really enjoyed this. And I think it's Amy Baldwin is the author. So what I did and Carrie did was we looked at the structure of the course now. We teach it in modules. We have, this is what we cover in week 1, this is what we cover in week 2, and we allow the instructors a little bit of flexibility with that. But most of the instructors stay within a pretty similar course organization. So we just looked at the typical course organization, and then we found chapters from current books that worked. We were able to cut certain things that were not applicable to a university of our size and student population, and then added a lot of the activities that we do. So for everything, we have an activity related. For example, we have a module related to library resources, and Carrie created this beautiful and wonderful interactive library tour that also brought them through questions where they would have to use the library databases to answer them. And at first I thought, oh, the students are not going to like this, but they love it because it sets them up. They have to know how to do that in all of their other courses. They really like it. So we created kind of a bank of activities for each of the chapters that we wanted to cover. And the chapters, sorry, I have you all on full screen here, and I needed to keep my screen half and half, right? So the chapters that we cover, the first week we do, a welcome like most people do. And for this week, we focused on how do you navigate your learning platform? Now, obviously, we can't take something from any particular book out there, because even if they were using the same platform that we use, and we use Blackboard, but even if they were using that, as you know, all of those types of things change every year. They update something to Blackboard. So if you tried to give specific instructions about how to find this thing on Blackboard, by the next year, it would not be valid. So instead, that's one of the things that I wrote in. It has the date, it has the year, and it's a supplement, right? So 2024, Blackboard, this particular iteration of Blackboard, this is how you find certain things. And we also have, a Blackboard quiz. They take syllabus quizzes like most of you are familiar with. We really spend a lot of time on how to navigate the learning platforms and the course shells. And I don't know about you all, but course shells at my university are not standardized. We do use Quality Matters, but that is only for the course shells that were created after a certain date. It follows Quality Matters. Anything before then, you could have your materials anywhere and it wouldn't be able to find it. So that first chapter, when we were trying to think about navigating the learning platform and navigating the university as a system, that's something we've really been building in. I realized I need to just create quick tips. So I wrote a small chapter of quick tips. Here are all of the things that come to mind, or to me as a former first gen student, and now as a faculty member, all the things that are really important to know that maybe no one has told you, or maybe you don't already know. So we talk about the hidden curriculum, and we talk about a lot of these other things, like what are office hours, why do you use them, those types of things. And then we go through, we have 15-week semesters, so we have a different focus for each week. And as I mentioned, we used chapters from a few different existing open access books, and then I wrote a few chapters myself and incorporated some of the activities that we do for the class. And that's really where we are. We update the activities every semester a little bit. But now we finally have an open access textbook, and the students have something that they can go to, that they can reference in their other courses, that hopefully helps them throughout their time at GovState. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Allie. Next up, we have Beth Holtman and Patrick Carberry of Elgin Community College. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, how are you? So Beth couldn't be here today, so I'm afraid you are also just stuck with me. I'm the English faculty recipient, and so I wanted a little bit to talk about my history first, and the history of ECC as an institution. So much like Allie, our institution is also minority serving. We are an HSI. We have 45% of our population is Latino students. And so we are very aware of the barriers to student success, the impact of being a first-generation college student. We are also a community college focused on our particular region in Elgin. A little bit about my history. I'm new to ECC, so Beth has a lot of the history of the institution and the institution's process towards implementing more OER across different disciplines. I can speak specifically to what we're doing within the English department to improve access to student information without the barrier of payment. So primarily right now, as I'm moving through the tenure process, I teach two different types of courses. The English 101 098 course, which is the accelerated learning program, and an English 102 course. So in the accelerated learning program or ALP course, I'm not sure if those of you outside of the English discipline are aware of that process, but it's a co-curricular course. So it's a way of mainstreaming developmental ed students into regular 101 courses. So in a 098 101 course, 10 students of the 20 enrolled will be regular English 101 students. The other 10 students are actually developmental students who didn't test into college level credit English. And so those students are also enrolled in the English 101. We teach the regular English 101, the regular English 101 students leave. And then 10 minutes later, in the same room with the same instructor, the developmental ed students have another hour and 15 minutes with that instructor to go over additional content to make sure that they understand that material. And we found that this equates to an equal pass rate as a regular 098 course. But additionally, it shrinks the amount of time and money that students need to spend in order to get into college level credit courses because English 101 is a gatekeeping course. So if they don't have reading and writing efficiency, if they haven't passed English 101, that prevents them from taking a bunch of other courses. And so by helping those developmental students move faster into college level credit courses, that just expedites the process of their learning. So having open educational resources for this particular course is extremely important to me as one of the instructors, because that is a barrier course. And if students don't have access there, then they can't take any other college level credit course, or there are significant limitations to the college level credits that they can take without English 101. Some of the research that we've found in our ALP is that one of the reasons why students struggle to pass this ALP course is because of entirely non-cognitive factors. I think Michelle mentioned having a food insecurity. That we have also found the same thing. And so ECC has instituted a food pantry, and that's now mandated on all of our syllabi to include information about where to have access to free food so that students who are struggling with food insecurity can have access to that. So we are also have just in the past semester updated our course outcomes for this ALP section across the entire institution. We're presenting them to the curriculum committee in oh, what's today? The 6th. In 2 weeks, on the 20th, we present our new course outcomes to the curriculum committee to hopefully get them approved. To focus more on these non-cognitive factors, one of which, of course, is including these non-cognitive barriers. Cost to education is a non-cognitive factor that can potentially limit a student's success, right? If you can't afford your textbooks, you can't succeed, you can't read the textbook, and then you cannot succeed in that class. So having OER resources for this ALP division of our English 101 makes it more likely that students are able to access the content and then succeed in that type of course. So I was going to just take a quick look at what our new course outcomes are. Again, this is a preview. These haven't been approved by the ECC curriculum committee yet. We're still about to present them. But these, again, are focused on those sort of non-cognitive factors. So one of the new outcomes is construct and apply strategies to address individualized non-cognitive barriers to success, such as time management. Again, here we're focused on the student's individual needs. Because ALP is taught in small groups, the instructor has the ability to get to know those students a little bit more and work with their individual needs. Another course outcome is to apply strategies to reduce writing anxiety, enhance professional communication, and build academic confidence. Identify academic strengths and weaknesses through reflective writing. Apply effective writing processes and strategies to complete English 101 successfully. So again, in this ALP section, the previous model was to have an entire course with its own textbook, with its own assignments, with its own essays, separate from English 101. And now with this model, we're eliminating that extra textbook, using open educational resources to help students address those non-cognitive barriers and to mainstream them into the English 101 program. In terms of, so this semester, or the past 2 semesters, I've been using open educational resources, both in this ALP system and then also in my English 102. For that, I'm doing an autoethnography project where the students collect different cultural artifacts and then write an autoethnography about some community that they are themselves a part of. And I've put together an OER resource for the students to help them understand ethnography and autoethnography and how this particular kind of academic discourse could be conducted.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we have Robin Hofstetter and Edward Green of Roosevelt University.
Thank you. So my name's Robin Hofstetter. I'm the Director of Libraries at Roosevelt University, and I partnered with Professor Edward Green, who's a professor of criminal justice at Roosevelt. Our school has a social justice mission, so we really found it that these two things make a great partnership. The way that this came about was a little bit of serendipity, because about 6 months before, oh, and I forgot to say, thank you so much to ILA and IACRL for this award. It's really helped open doors for us at Roosevelt and these partnerships with faculty, which I'll explain more. But before we saw the announcement for the grant, about 6 months before, Professor Green came to me and was looking for help from the library for an article processing charge to a journal where he was submitting his work as open access. And at the time, I told him, I said, I know about these charges and we really want to help you, but we don't have anything formal in the works, but keep us in mind and let's work together. We're trying to work on developing these workshops around OER, but we just haven't really gotten off the ground yet. So when this came about, it helped us because immediately when I saw it was a partnership between faculty and a librarian, I got in touch with Professor Green again, and he was all set to join me in this. So what we did was we submitted a syllabus, several worksheets, and his PowerPoint. We put those on the OER Hub, Open Illinois. This was our first submission to the platform, and we hope to see many more. We've Barbara Anderson, who's the head of instruction and learning, has a couple of textbooks in the works that we hope to put on there. But anyway, so the way that this evolved was we recognized the need for affordable and accessible resources that empower both the faculty and the students. And that's why we launched this small but impactful OER program at Roosevelt. By partnering with faculty across disciplines, we first help identify, curate, and then implement the free high quality OER materials that then reduce the cost for students and, of course, promote academic success, which is what we're aiming for. So our OER initiative not only highlights or excuse me, lightens the financial burden, but also it fosters this innovation and teaching and learning, which has been really exciting, I think, for the faculty and what everyone else has already mentioned here. So we're trying to make education more inclusive and adaptable to those diverse needs. So I mentioned Barb Anderson. She's a reference and instruction librarian. She has barely been instrumental in advancing our OER initiatives. And here's exactly what she did. She led a series of engaging workshops on OER creation and on open pedagogy by providing faculty with tools and knowledge to develop their own open educational resources. Her workshops emphasize the value of collaboration, and that's really what has evolved for us over time has been this wonderful collaboration between the faculty and the librarians in the library. It also um, spurs innovation and inclusivity in education, which our faculty are very invested in social justice mission. These faculty are mission driven, and so it's really exciting. Let's see. Marjorie Jolis is our Associate Provost for Faculty Development, Assessment, and Honors, and she created, or the Provost's office created last year something called Faculty Fridays, and this was our chance. So this door opened through Faculty Fridays, and this is where Barb led her workshops, and we had enthusiastic faculty about our OER initiative. So um, lately, we've partnered again with Professor Green for his environmental social justice class on something called open educational practice concepts. So it's been really exciting. It started out with Professor Green came looking for help with open access publishing. The Campus Kickstart was available. We were awarded that Kickstart. I reached out to Professor Green again, and we, submitted this, created this content. He created the content. I put it on the platform for OER Open Illinois. And then it just sort of evolved into open pedagogy and then open educational practice. So really what they did was develop an understanding of just what is OER. We hear the term, but many faculty didn't quite understand what it was. That evolved into OEP, the practices and pedagogies with that. What is copyright? What is accessibility? The connection between OER and social justice was really important for us. And then they developed an action plan, which means that they involved students in the learning process, which is new. and promoting work in teams of librarians, teams of faculty. They created a class that was really learner-centric. They asked students then to create content as well, and then all the while maintaining our social justice perspective. So next month, actually in October, I have the opportunity to lead a Faculty Friday this year, and leaning into our framework for information literacy for higher education, and focusing in on scholarship as conversation, and this is part of that. So it's been wonderful to have our ideas and concepts as librarians work themselves out through this. And so thank you so much for the award, and we're looking forward to creating more content and working with more of you.
Thank you so much, Robin. I haven't seen any questions here in the chat. If you have any, please go ahead and post them in there. I thought I would go ahead and get the ball rolling. So one of the things that Robin was just talking about was that that relationship between OER and open pedagogy, and how it relates to social justice. And I feel like we talked a lot about today about how OER especially is really helpful with those required courses for new students, to help them sort of get acquainted with what's expected of them as a college student, and things such as that. How much has this idea of OER versus just a free online resource, what kind of conversations have you had on your campuses about why OER as opposed to just something that students could access for free? Allie?
Yeah. So I think on our campus, we do tend to focus on the financial aspect of it frequently, as I'm sure most of you do as well. But we try to talk about how having an OER resource is actually, it's more stable almost. I don't know if that's quite the right descriptor, but it's a physical thing. It's more stable than having the instructor just throw up a couple of chapters from something else without violating copyright, or throwing up a couple of articles and kind of planning it out week by week, because that kind of seems like what happens when we try to do free resources versus a free textbook type resource. It's already there, it's already planned, students know what's going to happen week to week, and it's easier for them to plan their reading, their scheduling, their time, and it's also easier for the instructors, right? So that's kind of the focus that we spin on it after the financial advantage.
Thank you.
I actually have a question. I have a couple of questions. So for Patrick, I'm actually really curious about this English 101, like having the developmental course in with the 101. And then what kind of credit do the developmental course students get?
Yeah, so in both the old model and the new model, non-college level courses don't count for like college level credit. It's a 6 credit hour course for those 098 students who are enrolled in the co-curricular, but they will earn the 3 credit hour like college level credit English 101 course as long as they pass that English 101 course. And the pass rates for the developmental students are roughly equivalent to like regular English 101 students, and also the students who would take the old model where it was like the standalone English 98 course, and then the next semester take 101. The pass rates for the co-curricular are the same, and the only thing that it's doing is really reducing the amount of time that it would take.
That is so awesome. I feel like we need to learn more about that. But thank you. Tell us about when you're presenting. And I actually have a question for Ellie. This is like pretty straightforward one, but that library tour video, is there a link to it somewhere? Because I just like I also would have been like, ain't nobody want that.
Right.
Like, what?
Yes, yes. I have a link to that. I will contact Carrie to see if there's a link that an external person can use, because right now they log into their campus ID to access the link, but I'm sure that she has a way to demonstrate it outside. So I'll send her an email. And then, should I just email you? Do you want to throw your email in the chat maybe? Awesome.
How about other questions? Let's see. Michelle's email is there in the chat now. I don't see any other questions though.
I have lots of questions. So, Robin, I don't know if you might have said, but do you have dedicated funds to pay for like open access fees? For
We
office?
don't. No,
Okay.
it was part of our plan. I worked for another institution that has some funding. It's state school. They have a scholarly communications department, and they did set up some awards. So, I was familiar with that and wanted that to become part of our OER, which I think that it can. We just don't know exactly how much, and then sort of like the framework or roadmap or whatever you want to call it for who would receive those awards and how much. But I know that other institutions have done it successfully, and so I've just kind of patterned our work off of theirs. So far, we actually don't have any institutional funds for OER or open access work, but that is part of our goal. We've really been relying on these grants to fund everything that we do, but it's been successful on that. I mean, the faculty are so engaged in the whole open concept for open pedagogy, open educational resources. What is the difference between open access and open source? All of it. So I think just having these conversations and this collaboration with the faculty and the librarians is gonna somehow secure that funding, I believe.
I hope so. Any other questions today? I really thank you all for joining us here today. This was a fascinating 50 minutes. I've really enjoyed hearing about your projects, and congratulations to all of our award winners. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend and a great school year.
Thank you.
Thank you.